do a good job. And I say that to anyone. Like, great work is hard work. It is hard work. Nothing comes to you without hard work. Anyone that thinks it will is delusional. It is hard work, and it pays off.
Hello and welcome to the Courageous Leaders podcast. I'm Joanna Howes, your host and founder of The Change Creators. We focus on helping leadership teams build trust, alignment and cohesion to be able to win together. On today's episode, I'm very excited as we are joined by Karen Martin, CEO of BBH London. She is recognised as a progressive leader, earning Campaign's Agency Leader of the Year in 2021. Karen, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm really looking forward to this. Really looking forward to it. So I would like to know, to start with, what's a courageous moment that's happened for you?
I think my biggest courageous moment was an internal one, and believing that I could actually be the CEO of BBH. So that was a huge kind of internal moment, because obviously you present like you want it and you can, but I think making peace with that, going, no, I actually can, was, I think, still my most courageous moment. And maybe there's more to come, who knows?
I don't think so, but I'd love to know is what do you think that moment was inside? What did you need to do or change the way you think to go, do you know what, I can do that? What was that process?
Well, I mean, you hear so much about imposter syndrome, and I believe, everybody has that. I don't believe that there's anybody who doesn't kind of go, can I do this? The internal battle. And I suppose you just have to have a bit of trust and faith in yourself, and actually going, well, A, what's the worst that can happen? And B, push yourself forward, do it, because I think you've gotten to a certain point by doing certain things. So you've got to back yourself to do it. And it's a tough job, and knowing that it's not going to be all amazing and sunshine and lollipops. You've got hard work ahead of you. So I think it's all internal. I think all of these things are working it through yourself.
Yeah. And as I remember someone saying to me when I first started all my coaching training, it's like, we have this internal world. I'm like, what? Because we spend so much time looking outside for validation and other people telling us if we're good enough or not. But actually to be able to go inside, what am I telling myself, and can I do this? Yeah. And I notice I coach leaders all the time where they're going, they don't realise that there's that internal world there. Totally. Or it's actually where your strength comes from.
Totally. And it's actually, as I often say, it's those moments before you go asleep in the night. And if you get to sleep, in some cases you don't. I think it's there, the really critical, it's when everything's silent and you kind of think about your day, think about what's to come. But it's that voice, and you've got to make peace of that. Otherwise you'll be tormented all the time. So those moments I think are really critical for me anyway.
I'm just curious, because you mentioned the voice. Do you have a voice that kind of still pipes up and will put some doubts or questions in that you need to manage?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that, well, as I say, I think it's normal. People might go, actually, no, but it's also your conscience. It's also, have you done the right thing? Have you done the best thing that you can with the information that you have? And I do believe I always try and always do the right thing. It might not be what people want me to do, but I have to make the right decisions with that. So yes, I have good arguments, great arguments in my own head, actually.
But I suppose I think the advice I always have to people is make friends with that voice. Yeah. I think if you make friends with it, knowing that actually it's just trying to protect you. Yeah. And look after you, that's fine. I think the minute you go into battle with that voice, I think that's when you could spiral and everything gets really tough. So, believing that you could become a CEO, was that always the path? Did you know that's what you wanted to do?
No, not at all. Like, I think you kind of go through, I mean, like I was always ambitious. So like, and anybody going, no, you were very ambitious. I was always ambitious, but I never went, that is it. It's here. It's just, I always wanted to do a really good job. I always wanted to impress. I always wanted to make sure I was doing my best. And I think that's instilled as a kid and your family and all the rest of it. So it wasn't necessarily the end goal, but when I was MD at BBH, I was like, I think I want this. You have to want it and all the bits that come with it. And I think I can do it. So I can't say I've had this career plan my whole life and this is it and I've reached it and well done. It's, I've lived in different countries, I've had children, everything's taken a different path, but I've always looked at what's next and what do I want to do next, because I get bored quite easily, actually. And I need to keep myself entertained and at least feel that there's always a challenge, which there is every day in my job. Yes.
I bet. And obviously, such a prestigious agency you're at, keeping up those standards and expectations. Yes. I can only imagine the pressure that you're under.
Yes.
Just curious, for people like listening to this going, there's only really one MD role sometimes in a company, one CEO role. What do you think you did that helped you kind of stand out and be seen to be ready for those roles? What did it take from you to get where you are now?
I mean, I'm a doer. Like I just get on with it and do it. I went to university, but I can't say I was very academic. I was too busy talking, I think, to be honest. So I don't sit and write grand visions, but I think fast, and I do. I think and do at the same time. But when I went into BBH, and BBH, it was the place I always wanted to work in. And I've said this before. When I saw the Nick Kamen Levi's ad, I was like, I either want to marry Nick Kamen or work in advertising. So I worked in advertising, but it was always the church of amazing work. So I started off my career in Dublin. I did 2.5 years there. I did what every Irish person does and goes to Australia for a year. You kind of realise there's sunshine and there's water you can actually get into. And that was like, this is amazing. And then 14 years later, I still found myself there, and my husband and all the kids, etc. And then decided to move closer to home. So that was it. It was like parents getting old on both sides, all Irish, etc. So let's move back, but not move fully back. And then I got introduced to BBH, and I'd known a few people there, and I got the job. And I was like, Jesus. And then that's when the head went a bit mad, because I had a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old. We were moving country. And I went into BBH, and I have to say it was daunting. And people say that about the place because it's so respected and revered, and some of the best work that we all remember, and hopefully still to this day exists in there. The muscle memory, the craft, the hardworking ethos, all of that stuff. So you can't help but go in and go, what am I doing here? This kind of Australian-Irish, no Oxford education, walks in going, right. And I suppose I could have let that, really shape how I was going to do it. But there was work to be done, and there was lots of things to be done. Like Tesco was a client that was relatively new into the agency. I'd worked in retail before, and I knew the speed at which things had to be done, the agility, as we talk FMCG thinking, but done in 24 hours. And, if I'm honest, it wasn't set up to do that. So I said, I see a problem. I'm going to throw myself into it, and I'm going to fix that and go from there. So I wasn't really then plotting out my career. It was just like, just do a good job. And I say that to anyone. Like, great work is hard work. It is hard work. Nothing comes to you without hard work. Anyone that thinks it will is delusional. It is hard work, and it pays off.
Yeah. And I think, your career has been fantastic to watch, and, the accolades that you've got. And thinking of that hard work, and let's go on that tricky subject. Let's go there. Because I think there's a lot of different meanings for people and perception of what is hard work today. And I know for you and I, in the way we were brought up in the industry, hard work was working late, the hours, the commitment, the care, where there is then a bit of a disconnect now of hard work is, well, I'll work hard between 9 to 5:30, but that's the hard work you're getting from me. What have been your insights of your understanding of seeing that change and the impact that's having?
So I think the whole 9 to 5, my life, all the rest of it is, and people should have balance, because working all the time makes you angry and miserable. And I don't think they're good, because you don't have anything to balance you out. You don't have your friends or your family going, you're turning into a bit of a dick, to be honest, like that reality. So you do need all of that. But I also think you need to make sure that you realize, and I say this to a lot of the junior people at BBH, what is it? And I'm like, just care. Even if you only care between 9 and 5, it's better than not caring between 9 to 5, So I think if you care about it as much as your co-worker, your client or whatever, then you create that culture. But that is hard, because it consumes an awful lot of your mind, and it means that you probably won't have the rigid cut-off structure. And, some days if you're on pitches, or if you're, it's Christmas season here at the moment and everyone's been working hard on Christmas ads, I don't think they've slept a lot over the past while. It's all consuming. And then they have that moment to turn off. But I just think that's the ebb and flow of the industry. And I don't want to promise things to people that you can have it all. Someone said to me, you might just have it in different stages of your life. So, but just care. And that makes all the difference.
And I think that's a really good way to measure someone's performance, is how much care are they putting in. And I suppose it's also going, I had a creative turn around to me the other day, though, go, well, they can't care if they don't work past 6. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know if that's a fair measurement. I don't think that's fair. I think it's showing what they're doing in the day and the interest, the curiosity they're showing, the questions they're asking, and also just caring about the people they work with as well. You know, don't going home without asking, is there anything I can do to help you?
Well, that's it. I think that, so like, that's why I think the whole like leaving at 6 has become this enemy. That isn't the enemy. It's the fact that like that, if your team are all there past 6 and you get up and walk out and you don't ask anybody, then you're just not really a great person, are you? Like, you know, that you go, it's all about me. And I think people can be perhaps a little bit more selfish, but care about your colleagues, care about your clients, care about your work, and it will come to you. And if you do that between 9 and 5, good on you. There should be no one walking around with a clipboard going, they're not here. Presenteeism is a joke. You could work for 24 hours and still achieve nothing. If you work for 4 and get something brilliant out, even better. So I feel we need to make peace with this 9 to 5 nonsense, because it's annoying the next generation and it's making us look like we're really stuck in our ways. So I think let's just move on from that.
Forget about the time. Let's look at the care.
Exactly.
Change the conversation.
Exactly. Exactly. Please.
If you're enjoying this episode and finding it insightful, I want to take a moment and remind you, if you haven't already, to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a small action, but it makes a big difference. Not only will you be the first to know when an episode drops, but it really helps us to continue to create this content for leaders like you. And I'd love to hear from you. So if you've got thoughts, questions, or ideas, feel free to drop them in the comments. Also, if you want to explore how my leadership training and coaching can support you and your team, then drop me a DM and we can have a call. Thanks so much. Now let's get back to the episode.
So going into CEO role, because I think I've not done a CEO position, but I've worked with many CEOs, and I do look going, how do they do that? Wow. And, in question, could I do it? Not sure. But now being in that role, what surprised you in maybe what you didn't realize it was going to be like? What have been some of the surprises?
I think it's like, get out your violins. I think you as a person are kind of forgotten because you have to live up to so many unbelievably high standards, which I don't think my bosses had to in the past. So you could be brilliant at what you did and a great business person, and maybe not worry that much about the people, right? But it was about results. Now you have to beat results, but you have to be really caring and empathetic and worry about everybody and put them first and never yourself. And, you have to have a policy on everything, and you have to think about every single thing that you could get wrong for an individual every day. And it's exhausting. And so as a result, you take on more and more and more. And I feel, yes, okay, senior leaders get to a position, get paid a lot of money, but we are people too. And I think the expectations are just too much, often way too much. And I think that's the hard work doesn't get me. It's the expectation on you as an individual is the toughest bit of the job, I would say.
Yeah, it's blowing my mind what's now been expected of leaders. And I think, I shared recently, I think it's like 60% of Gen Z now are looking at their leaders going, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Why would I? Constantly seeing the leaders burning out. How can they be everything to every single person? And there's this new term now called unbossing. They're all unbossing themselves going, no, I'd actually rather be an individual contributor than need to look after people. So it's a bit worrying, the future of companies, if we keep expecting these expectations of leaders, because it's not sustainable.
It's not. And also, good on you if you want to unboss, but somebody else has to do it. So I find the whole, the next generation, and they're not going to do this, they're not going to do that. But then what do we do? Because it's still the same job. It's still, yes, we've got new, technology and stuff that's changed it. But I'm in this industry 23, 24 years. And I still work like an account exec on some things and a CEO on others, because I don't think it changes. So my question back around people going, no, I've got boundaries, which you should, and I'm not going to do this and all the rest of it. And my expectations is, well, who is going to do it? And it'll have to be somebody else in your team. And I think we create really wars with people on that, which is just back to the point on, if we all cared and we did it in our own way, then at least you've got a similar mindset and an attitude to work. I think it's the attitude to working hard is the different thing, and forget the confines of hours, etc. But yeah, somebody has to do the work. So you have to look around going, who is it? It's not you. Who's going to do it?
Do the work. And then it's going, what's your view in terms of how can we maybe take some of the pressure off leaders? What needs to change in terms of, I've got a particular view in, I think, too much is being expected of the workplace in terms of meeting individuals' needs. I've got a bit of opinion. I think we've got a lot of parent leadership going on, that there's just too much being expected. Like I was on a call the other day, I couldn't believe how many medical conditions they thought I should be aware of that to be available. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to understand. No. How can you even think I would? That's why they have doctors and families to support with that. Why I don't understand why that's coming to me. I'll provide the time, but how much understanding is really expected? What would you like to see, even if it's like a small change, to just take some of this pressure off leaders in terms of what the people expect from them?
Great question.
It's a big one. Sorry.
I think people have to take a bit of personal responsibility. I think everyone assuming that your workplace is to be responsible for all your life's challenges. Now, don't get me wrong. An empathetic environment that puts people first gets the best of everybody. So that, and I don't want to ever go back to how I started off in this industry where no one cared. So I think we've come a long way, and I think it's great, really, really great. But I also go, at the end of the day, is this your boss's problem? Is this your workplace problem? Or is it your own? And I think a good separation of the two is really healthy. Like, you know, I love the bring yourself to work. I'm like, I don't know if everyone needs to do that every day. I don't know if I need to do that every day. I don't think anyone would like to see that sometimes. So I think there's just a bit of a work is work, home is home. Yes, great, arrive and be your best self and all the rest of it. But the expectation that it has to solve all your problems, it's impossible. We'll never be able to do it because there is the job that we have to do as well. But you know, I believe in empathetic leadership. I believe in looking after people. I think if you look after people in times when you need them, they'll be loyal and they'll be brilliant. And I know any person or place I've ever worked for where I felt cared for, I'd have given my all. And I still think that exists. It's just, it's gone a bit
too far.
Like you said, we've gone into extremes, which we seem to like to do. And then we do that and then we pull back.
Come back.
Yes. This industry, we're like, you know, self-flagellation, like, oh God, we're awful. And then we're back.
And I think COVID had a big impact in a lot of this. And I still think we're working through the post-COVID in terms of how far does it go. As you said, like when COVID happened, we all leaned into this really caring, nurturing kind of parenting role to look after everyone. And I think we're just trying to find what's that new space now that we can operate in. So I think a lot of people, the teams are being looked after, but I have to say I'm very, very worried about the leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, you can still, it's possible to care, but maybe you have to have your boundaries of which you can, because you can really devote and we've all had, leaders have had examples of where they've given everything to a person and they've still left or done something. And because you've given so much of yourself, you feel really wronged by it. You feel really invested in it. Now you kind of go grow up. That's kind of part of the job. But I've had so many experiences where I think I've given so much and it hasn't been repaid. At the end of the day, we're humans and there's a human kind of relationship and contract there, not just, oh, you're the boss or not. So I feel we need to get back a little bit. I think we were all brilliant and we leaned in massively in COVID and, you know, I was advising people on what to eat, Jesus. But, you know, we went to extremes like that and then we've had to pare back a bit. It's healthier for everybody that way to have separation. And then you can separate yourself from work, which you should do anyway.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Thank you. Changing tact a little bit. When we spoke previously, we were talking about like leadership styles. I'd love you to just share a bit of like your leadership style, how that's worked in the culture of the agencies that you've been in and what you've noticed with the style that you bring.
I always believe you should do what you said you were going to do because they are your words and it's all you have as a human, right? That's it. Say you're going to do it. And that will, you know, people will make their mind up about you in that small instance. Now, they don't have to like what you do, but they have to know what you're going to do. So I believe in being unbelievably direct. And I know it rubs people up the wrong way, but there's too much time wasted and too much energy and emotion and effort not calling it like it is. And I've always gone on the philosophy of soft on the person, hard on the topic. You don't have to be horrible to somebody if you're delivering really, really tough news. You can be really nice about it, but what you don't want to do is mince those words. You want everyone to walk out of a room going, I don't like what you said. I don't like that people think this about me, but I'm very clear. And then the next conversation you have, you're talking about the topic at hand and you're not still trying to work out, when you said that, what did you mean that? We've all been in them and they take too long. And I know that style, you know, isn't for everybody, but it's my style. And I'd like to hope that anyone I work with or I've ever worked with would always know when they leave a room what I think and what I think we should do. And they can disagree because I love directness back. I love a good argument. It's great. I love to be challenged. I have a family that don't stop debating until all hours of the morning. We'd like to talk it out, maybe too much. In fact, definitely too much. But I want that back. I want that pushback too. And I hope that I get that out of people. But if anything, I'm really direct. Clients say, oh my God, you're so direct. I'm going, yeah, because we don't have time.
Does it surprise them?
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah. I think it's the Irish, kind of Australian, spent a long time there, of wonderful directness meets British people who aren't as direct. So it's kind of like a Jesus. But, you know, we all get along now. We've all gotten used to that.
I think it's like Brené Brown says, like clarity is kindness. And I think, unfortunately, when I go and meet all the teams, when I go into companies and I get the feedback, majority of the time I'm going back to the leadership team going, the number one thing they're asking for is clarity. So something's not landing in your communication or you're not repeating, where people just aren't clear what you're trying to say they need to do.
And back to that working hard point is like people become managers, but they don't want to do the tough bit of the job, which is saying, no, that meeting wasn't great, whatever it is, but don't want to tell them that something wasn't very good or their performance wasn't great. So they don't want to do that. So we've got generations of people going, what? I'm not good. I've never been told this in 10 years. And then it's a huge shock to them. So we need to fix that because it's unfair. It's really, really unfair.
And I think it's one of the biggest problems we have.
Yeah.
Like my giving and receiving feedback training is the number one thing I get asked for, because everyone goes, we've all become too nice. It's actually affecting how we work and it's affecting the quality of the output because no one's challenging enough about the work. And it's something I stand by is it's somebody's bill of rights to know how they're performing.
Absolutely.
I would hate it. It's a bit like, isn't it, when you walk around with something in your tooth and no one tells you and then you see it, you're like, why didn't anyone tell me? It's that awful feeling that for 5-10 years I've not been doing very well, but you didn't help me out. Like, and then you feel like, well, my rights were taken away and everyone's talking about you behind your back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that's worse than just having a direct conversation to know, okay, in the moment it will hurt, to know this is where you can improve and this is the consequences if you can't get there.
Yeah, I know. And I remember when you do appraisals, which anything that involves praise for too long for me is my worst nightmare. So I remember to always go to the back and go, can we get to the negative bits? Like I'd feel more comfortable in that space. I'd like to know what I need to improve on. And I don't know, boss going, Jesus, okay, you just want to go to the back? And I'll say, do please. And then we can come to the front then after it. Because I like to know, and I don't have to agree with lots of the feedback. I can kind of go, you can take it quite personally, but someone else's perception is their reality. So you've got something to change somewhere within that. And you know, if you've got EQ and some awareness, which you need to have as a leader, lots of it, because people are going to going to just like you because you're a CEO and then add on all your failing qualities after that. But you have to have awareness of that stuff and take the good and the bad. But as a manager, if you're not prepared to give the person that's working into you some honest feedback, you shouldn't be a manager.
No, and it is a choice to be a manager.
Yeah.
Do you know John Maxwell's 5 levels of leaders?
No.
So he has a thing, it's like level 1 is, well, people follow you because they have to, just because you got the job title. Yeah. But level 2, people follow you because they like you. So you've built a relationship that's liked. And then number 3 is because you're doing results. But unfortunately, so many people get stuck at level 2 because that feeling of being liked and one of the team and everyone likes me, they stay stuck. Because then really to go to the next level of delivering key results, it's where the difficult conversations sit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the bit when you go, what makes you decide into leadership or not, is you have to give up the thing of being liked. And I am a people pleaser. My family, I'm a people pleaser. It goes, everyone okay? Because I'm the youngest. And it's like, you know, and everyone says everyone the youngest is really difficult. I don't think it's true for all the youngest people. I think you actually end up trying to please everybody and being liked. And who doesn't want to be liked? But you have to give that up because you might not be liked, and that's okay. But you have to be respected. If you're not respected, then you have a problem. But if you're liked over respected, you're probably not the best leader.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to make the impact that could be done.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is, if you're going to be choosing a leader, there's a load of people looking at you for direction, and they can actually only go as far as you're willing to go.
Yeah.
So there's actually a whole load of lives that you're going to hold back.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to step into that role as it needs to be stepped into.
Absolutely. And that is, leads into decision making, which leaders are paid to make decisions, and they don't always have to be right. In fact, they're probably not always going to be right, and you have to have your own kind of, ways of dealing with that. But your job is to decide. Your job is to go, it's this. And then you go, I hope. Look away from everyone and go, yeah, no, but you have to. And lots of people don't like making decisions because it's a great accountability comes from decision making. But that is it. Make good decisions, not be liked always, but be respected. And then everyone's clear on what you stand for. I think that's helpful. But yeah, the lack of decision making is incredible, I think. It's just people just don't want to do it.
Yeah. And do you see that daily with you?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Could be this, could be that. I know it could be, but what is it?
Where'd you go?
Particularly.
So where did you learn to make good decisions? How did that happen? Like if we're passing on to other people sitting there going, oh my God, that's me. What could they learn from you to go, right, this is how you do it?
Because you have to go, what is the cost of not making that decision? I have to look at the negative of not doing it, because the negative of making it is probably relatively small in the scheme of things, unless you end up losing an account in an agency. But that won't be because of one decision. That will be a series of a few. So that one decision is the outcome is probably not going to be that bad. The cost of not making that decision is going to be a hell of a lot worse. And so own your mistakes. I'm honest if I've not, it's my fault. It's absolutely my fault. I didn't make a good decision. I did it under these conditions. I got it wrong. Grand. I won't the next time. Move on. We don't all sit there berating each other about getting something wrong. Get it wrong and move on quickly. And we don't need to sit there and do wash-ups and all that crap. It's just agree to it, own it, and get moving.
Just a quick pause to ask for your help. We received wonderful messages on how the podcast is supporting you as leaders and helping to normalise the challenges you face. To help us reach and support more leaders, we'd love your help. If you haven't already, please can you follow or subscribe on the platforms you watch or listen to us on, as it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. And now let's get back to the episode.
And I think it's for me, is once you start making faster decisions, it gets the muscle memory again.
Totally.
It gets a bit easier. It's like fear of public speaking. Once you get on stage 1 or 2 times, you don't think about it as much. But it's just that, I think it comes back to when you said that right at the beginning, that inner belief and faith. I think it's having more faith than fear.
Yeah.
Over what the outcome is. Actually back yourself and know that you can handle if it goes wrong versus not making a decision and never knowing or learning anything by just holding back.
I'd find that to live in that world of permanent indecision would be awful.
Oh yeah. That would be exhausting.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. So just make a decision and then hope for the best. I know. And listen, 9 times out of 10, your decisions will be right if you've used some good techniques to make that decision. And some of it's gut. And for me, a lot of it's gut. I'm quite instinctive, actually. Maybe too much, but I am. Or I'll feel it. If it's not right, then it's probably not right.
Well, they say the brain is, so much of the brain cells are in the gut.
Totally.
So that feeling is so good.
Totally. We've all done meetings or convinced ourselves that some client relationship is great, or done chemistry meetings that we all go, no, this is amazing. When if you go back and you weren't successful in that pitch, you'll probably call it at a chemistry meeting going, I knew that. And I should not have done that, or I shouldn't have continued with that. And I think as leaders, we need to trust that a bit more, because we've got enough experience now to know when something's just not going to happen.
It's just a bit off. I'd love to know, because I love the direct approach. It's not a natural part of how I lead, but I seem to be quite attracted to people who are quite direct, because I just find it really refreshing. Has it actually ever backfired on you though? Has it ever gone where someone just hasn't been able to handle it, or you've had to navigate it, a situation where that directness just was received badly?
Yeah, yes. And I always found that when I first went to BBH, it wasn't that direct. I used to find that people would talk about something and then leave a room and then go, well, that's really bad. And I'd be like, Jesus, what? Now, that is me, and that is not everybody. So I had to then win people over on my style then, because it's like, I'm not doing it to be mean, actually. And that is the directness is associated with you being mean. I'm doing it because I feel it's the fairest way. I think that is, and I believe in fairness, and the thing that gets me most in this industry, if something is unfair, that will be, you cross my boundaries when you go, that is unfair. And I explain that going, and then people go, okay, yeah, I kind of get that. But again, it is the softer on the person, harder on the topic. And some people don't want feedback. We've had people who've gone, yeah, Grant, I don't want to know. And you go, okay, you kind of have to, and yeah. So there are people who just can't accept negative things being said about them. Plenty, actually. So, I think we can see that in leaders of the world as well. It's not like a unusual trait, because they can't just compute it and they can't believe something would say that. Now, that's obviously something else going on, but yeah, it's not for everyone.
I suppose you're just having to read that room.
Read the room. I mean, yes, with clients, read the room. Like, I've been in so many meetings where like someone's on their 40th slide and you go, well, the client's kind of asleep or like looks like they may have died in this meeting. They're so bored and nobody's gone, right, well, I should probably move it on. So the lack of awareness and EQ is insane. But again, you have to know when you're upsetting people. You don't upset anybody, but sometimes what you have to hear is really hard, and just do it in a nice way and make sure you follow up and be kind. And there's, you can land the point and you can be lovely after, and you should be. And you should make sure they're okay, and, message them if they go home that evening, thinking of you. I hope you're, all of that stuff, really, really matters. It's the aftercare. It's if you say it and then, see it, then that's not a good thing to do.
So what I'd love to know is, where would you like to be now more courageous in your leadership? What's next for you?
Wow. I suppose, it's a very difficult question, actually. I think I'm going to stick to my path and who I am. I'm not going to change, and maybe make bolder decisions quicker.
That's nice. So just keep building on your strengths and the way you're going. That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what I'd love to also know is, what advice would you pass on to your younger self?
We said, like, I wouldn't have listened to anything I would have told myself now. So I would have gone, no, you're all right, thanks. But I would say, and this is going to sound really funny, but in my early years, I was quite quiet in meeting rooms. So I'm like, speak first, get whatever it is out, because 50% of talking meetings is absolute crap. So you just get in there early, even if you get a tumbleweed, doesn't matter, you've said something, because if you've said something, the likelihood of you saying something more in the meeting is it. And account exec, account manager, sitting in there going, oh, I've got to say something, and then not listen to the meeting because I'm just so panicked about saying something. Just do that early, and then you'll have a much more enjoyable meeting. And also for younger generations who feel they let the grown-ups speak first, is that I remember when I worked on every beer brand under the sun in Australia, and actually I was the target audience, and so I was actually more qualified to have an answer than most of the people in the room. And I remember just sitting there and listening to these, I would have called them ancient people who would have been younger than me, debating what was right for 23 to 25-year-olds, going, this lot haven't got a clue. I wish I backed myself more in that speak for his point to actually go, I could have been quite influential, but I just went for hierarchy over experience or life experience. And I always look for everyone's voice in a room, because I don't know. I'm not at a certain age group, so I don't understand. But there's people in the room in the agency who do. Ask them. Make sure you get there. They'll be the best advice you're going to get.
Yeah. And it is incredible, the fear that I see of people finding their voice. And I'm still seeing this a lot in senior leaders as well. Yeah. Just holding back. I say that fear of looking stupid, the fear of being rejected, the fear of getting it wrong. And it's like, wow, even in brainstorms, I used to sit there and wouldn't even speak in a brainstorm. I was so scared of saying it wrong. And then, when everyone goes around and does your idea, and I'm like, why didn't I speak?
Yeah. It's a perfect place. Everyone can get it wrong.
And you just get it wrong. And I used to sit there and go bright red if I spoke, and overthink it and panic and sweat. But the minute I remember I got so annoyed that I didn't speak, I'm like, I'm going to speak in the next meeting. I did it and I went, oh, that was fine. Yeah. I didn't blow up in a ball of flames. That was fine. And then you say you just can keep the momentum going.
Totally. And I would encourage everybody to practice that. get it. And as I said, most stuff that people say in meetings isn't that good.
No.
So,
and I think like anyone listening now who finds they hold back, seek out an opportunity to lead, seek out an opportunity to speak up.
Yeah.
And also seek out an opportunity where someone just goes, oh, that's not on point.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And just see how then you handle that.
Yeah.
And move on and realize you're okay.
Yeah. And most people in the room are very forgiving, and they were there once. So nobody forgets that. I think it's always in someone's head more than anyone else in the room. So yeah, totally agree. Get it out there.
Find your voice.
Find your voice and make it heard. Hopefully in the first 10 minutes, and then you're grand after that. But also let other people speak.
Look, thank you for everything you've shared. I think it's packed full of advice here. Is there anything we've missed? Anything else that you'd like to make sure our listeners hear from you?
No, I mean, I think the only thing I feel is quite important for leaders, for people that you work with and for our industry is more generosity. I feel like we're in a world that isn't particularly pleasant at the moment. And sometimes agencies are pit against each other, leaders are pit against each other, teams are pit against each other. I would just love to see much more generosity of each other's work, each other's challenges. And I feel, you know, there are some great leaders in other agencies that I know that we look out for one another. And it's maybe a bit more modern leadership, to be honest, but I feel that generosity to one another in our industry, I'd ask for more of that because it's hard. Our work is hard. And it could be, you know, it's okay to be competitive, but it's also okay to be generous. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that's lovely. Supportive. And you just made me think of, I watched a documentary of the Olympics and you've got them all competing, but they are all, you know, high-fiving each other, supporting each other, you know, and they're competing for like gold medals and things, but they can still have that camaraderie and support and respect for each other. And I think that'd be lovely. So I do think the industry is tough right now.
It
and
is.
Agencies are having a really tough time. So as you said, that bringing that care for the work into the care for each other.
Yeah, and celebrating each other's work.
Do you know how nice?
And also not looking for the clickbait headline on one another. It's like someone else's noise could be yours tomorrow. So just remember that and be more Olympics.
What a nice saying. Be more Olympics. We'll finish on that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Congratulations on everything that you've achieved. I'm very excited to see how you keep building.
This has been lovely. Thank you.
We could just carry on chatting, couldn't we? Go for a drink now.
Yeah, a bit early, but yeah, all right.
Well, why not? You're Irish. There we go.
Absolutely. My core competency. Thank you.
But thank you so much. And thank you for everyone listening. And we'll see you next week.
If you've been loving our Courageous Leaders podcast, please can I ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps keep the quality content coming and reach listeners like you that we can then really, really help. We fund this podcast ourselves, so to have your support means that we can keep delivering week on week. Thank you.